Hello. I'm going to talk about log infrastructure. Who needs logging? Everyone, I think. Who has a lot of experience with logging solutions? You have? Okay. Okay. If I'm wrong with some things I say in this presentation, please give a remark immediately. I have no problem with it. So I will try to not to tell lies. First about me. I'm a Linux system architect at ICTRA, but ICTRA I will explain in the next slide. I am from Belgium, so we have the best beer in the world. You can discuss this as well, but it's true, you have the best beer. I'm working, of course, in the IT sector, mainly Linux and system administration work, but I'm also responsible for bringing a lot of new architectural changes and products in our Linux team. One of my focus is also on security, but I do a bit of everything. ICTRA is ICT for rail, or also for transport, mobility and security. ICT for rail, that means we are the IT provider for the National Railway Company in Belgium. So there are about 2,000 IT professionals working in the company, and a lot of them is also managers, and so not all of them are engineers and technicians, but 2,000 is a nice number. Facts, we have 5,500 kilometers of fiber optic, so that's a huge benefit. The fiber optic is sold also for like telecommunication, people are also using it. If you have the railway, there are also fiber optic cables, and there is a lot of capacity free on this cable, so that's very useful. We have 3 main data centers, most of them, who knows Brussels, 2 of them are in Brussels and 1 is near Brussels. And a lot of technical locations. What do I mean with technical locations? These are like stations where you have maybe 1, 2 servers for some specific tasks. And we have about 2,600 cameras in 51 major railway stations. So that's for security. So that's a lot of things to this is a lot also. Ticketing solutions is also running on Linux for a part. Information systems, so one of the new systems is a voice announcement system, so that's also a large part of it is also on Linux, so we have to monitor all these things. Train info in real time is also running. Yeah, of course, everything IT related is running in our company. Management of computer hardware, 20,000 people. That's a lot of workstations. That's also a good team who is doing the management of that. GSM for rail. So the European railway companies, they also have their own GSM network. So it's a bit different from the normal standard. The integrated security solutions are about the cameras, and we have really important fleet management systems. So real-time following up to trains is very, very security related. It can be dangerous if it isn't a good solution. About our Zabbix installation, one of the difficulties, it's used by different teams. So we use it together with Puppet to do a rollout of the agents. Then we have the Solaris team, and what's typical for Solaris, typical for our country to begin with, we have like everything. We have Open VMS, some HP Unix machines, we have Solaris, we have a lot of Windows. Also, we have a lot of Linux and even a mainframe, I think. So there is a lot of different systems we have to support. The Solaris team because a lot of software is running on Solaris, we use scripts and the API to monitor it with Zabbix, because there are a lot of resource groups in these clusters, and you can't do it with auto discovery or things like that, so you have to do it under. Another team is the train announcement system team, so that's like the voice system. About the setup also, it's one master server and every slave, but a pacemaker, that's a good cluster technology. Some proxies, and a MySQL master-slave cluster. I went back to a master-slave cluster, we tried something else, and that's the Halera technology, but it's very difficult to use Halera for Zabbix because of logs. They did some patches, and now, thanks to our company, you can use Halera as well, but we switched back. So master HA is just a little tool for master slave promotion and all. There are some numbers below it. Why do we log? One reason could be your manager says, we have to do because of some standard like PCI, DSSS, the payment card industry standard, or you have to do it out of ISO regulations. Or other regulations maybe coming from European Union to store logs for X years, I don't know. Another reason is, or goal is central storage. If something happens and the server is really broken, I still want analysis. If you have it central, you can do a lot of metrics and can check for the compliance. Also, and that's what I'm talking about here, is anomaly and fault detection. So that's we use Zabbix for, of course, but together with other tools. The requirements, you have always to be careful with the requirements. What's the number of average number of events per second or peak loads? If you have a lot of Java applications and they are logging a lot of XML files, and we are an enterprise, then these are in debug mode, maybe even worse, and you log that centrally, it's going to kill your server. You don't do that with the Zabbix log infrastructure itself. You use other tools for it. Also resiliency, against cracking attempts as it needed. So if it's a very, very important system and you have to protect it, do you want to use a central storage or also some parts of it decentral? I think the combination of the two is best, but everything is on measure. Remote locations, the delay for logs, I don't think a delay is really bad, but maybe if you do the fault detection on your logs and it's an important application, you don't want any delay. And also the search performance. Especially for the search performance, nowadays we have very, very nice open source technologies. So we use these. I'm going to skip this one. So it's mostly the top 10 typical reasons, according to the Suns, who is very known also, to do logging. The red ones are the ones I think are important, and the bold ones are those you maybe are asked to do, so like delivering reports to management with some metrics and nice graphs and all, or like the frameworks like ISO and ETL and all. ETL is especially something from the UK, I think, so that should be interesting as well. Where does Zabbix fit in? Well, in fact, it all comes down to Zabbix Sender, just the alerting, because it's perfect for monitoring resources. And Zabbix is also very good in alerting, but the escalations and all the other tools you need, it's all included. But for huge amount of log files, I wouldn't do it. Why? I want to separate. Zabbix is an all-in-one solution, but I never want to, my Zabbix agents if it has to spend a lot of processing time on log files, maybe it's better to use something else. Also for the transformation of log files, you change to another format. And for storage, Zabbix doesn't answer the storage problem for logs. We have other tools which are perfect for gathering, transformation, and analysis, and we can use Zabbix for the algorithm part. Although, one addition in 2.2, we have also regular expression matching. But there is a blog post by Richard on the Zabbix blog about this. So now you can react on conditions happening in a log, and regular expressions are very powerful. So if you are only in need of alerting, you can use that still. This is just an overview about some of the tools you could use for logging purposes. So we have Zabbix, we have syslog, of course. Big difference between syslog and he and our syslog. Syslog NG also has pattern DB. So it's a rather powerful technology for matching patterns also. Well, our syslog is standard on most Linux distributions nowadays. Search technology, Elasticsearch, maybe are there a lot of persons who didn't have heard about Elasticsearch before? Okay. Okay. Solar Sphinx. Sphinx is for DB, full text search. Storage. Then we have like for security specific tools, and of course, but I'm going to talk about these in the next slides. We have this was one of my ideas at the beginning of this year. It's way too well, it's not big enough to show all parts, but it's more like a metrics and logging network. So what do you need? You do always need a queue. It's best to use a queue. So if there is peak load and all. There is also the Zabbix agents, and StatsD is very interesting for DevOps and things like that. And you have the front ends in green. Yeah, if you have money, use Splunk. Splunk is a very good tool to do logging, but it doesn't integrate too well with Zabbix. There is just, you can call Zabbix sender from actions defined on your Splunk installation. But it's very easy to install also. But once you start with the big data term, then Splunk is not free, it's expensive. If you have a lot of data, it's very expensive. It misses some features as well, but it's very good for a test because it's all integrated also. Thus if you don't want to spend much time on and you are maybe, you can use Splunk, give it a test. But here we are talking about open source. So the open source logging infrastructure in our company, in general, we use our syslog, just the central instances, and the other ones send it to the central instance. Logstash, I'm sure the people who know logging have heard about Logstash. Elasticsearch for the horizontal scaling technologies to search logs. And Kibana is just the front end also. Another tool is ELSA, and that's maybe something new for most people. ELSA is very good because it integrates a lot of security stuff. So our syslog. One tip, always use on-disk queues or RELP and RELP also. So that's for application level reliability. In fact, you know, syslog is TCP and UDP, but the UDP you can trust because you can lose you can have drop packages, but TCP you can trust also. There is also TCP you don't have application level reliability, so you have to use the reliable event logging protocol for it. That's typical for our syslog. And then the most recent version, so the default version of Red Hat, for example, doesn't include it. As it's also the TLS support. So if you have some stuff that has to be protected, also use TLS on it. Our syslog also has output and input modules. So in fact, our syslog can also output to Elasticsearch. But Elasticsearch, why should you use it straight from our syslog if you better can transform the messages with another tool? The problem I have with our syslog, it's not that powerful also for matching and for parsing and for transformation of log files. Another tip is to use high precision timestamps. And in the future, most logging solutions will come down to the CEEE format. So that's the Lumberjack project. I think it's also by the guys from Red Hat. Okay.
Are there any more questions?
So, any experience with Sentinel or Sentinel Log Manager?
With Sentinel?
Yeah, from Novell.
No.
How are you handling large files locally?
Log files from?
If you have a large file locally on a system, how do you kind of path that into alogin or alog or asuslog or what?
You can the best way, if it's just log files, our syslog is performance-wise the best choice. And then you can run Logstash maybe to do some analytics on the central storage. But you can of course also use Logstash itself on the system, and afterwards you just prune them with a script or log rotate, and you keep they are still on the central storage, your logs.
Okay, what about if you have a text file, for example, or a big, which is not syslogging?
File, input file from Logstash. Okay. And it keeps everything in sync. Okay. You have then a sense_db parameter, which keeps the status of where was the pointer in the log file. Or you can also let it start from the beginning at each startup. It's really, really powerful.
Thank you.
So you have you've actually gone with a Logstash Elasticsearch Kibana installation at your setup. Yeah. So we're dealing with Elasticsearch a little bit at the moment because the developer for Kibana, it now works for them, and they actually sell it as a solution, as a logging solution to compete with Splunk. We worked out that we haven't actually set it up yet, but it looks like we've got a lot of buy-in from our application architects, and from the systems point of view, it seems very good as well. And the actual, I think the yearly support cost is about what we're spending a month on Splunk, and we don't use Splunk anywhere near the way we want to. So one of the things they do recommend is actually having a minimum of 3 Elasticsearch nodes. Is that your experience, or have you gone with some other setup?
We have 4 Elasticsearch nodes for the moment. Yeah. And but the only problem will be the long-term storage. For now, everything is running on the problem is the storage in our company, the Sun, is very expensive. So
we're looking at probably using Amazon services for that. We're looking at using Amazon services for the archiving.
Yeah, that's in the long term. In the short term, we will integrate it with the archiving platform. And
you know, I think that guy might have actually asked this question already. Do you know what sort of how many entries you're pushing into to Elasticsearch to use 4 servers?
Some thousands, I think. It's not that, but it should scale to
per second.
Thousands. I think it's about the same as a Zabbix. No, it's very fast, Elasticsearch. So it could scale to 10,000 messages. So even the LSAT tool, which is based on which is more for security things, but it's running just on MySQL and uses Sphinx. And they also got numbers like 40,000, 60,000 events per second.